Welcome to Resilience Development in Action with Steve Bisson. This is the podcast dedicated to first responder mental health, helping police, fire, EMS, dispatchers, and paramedics create better growth environments for themselves and their teams. Let's get started.
And we're back on Resilience Development in Action. This is the part two because we left on a very nice little note. I would love to talk more to Bridget Truxillo. Did I get it right?
You got it right, Mr. Bisson. You did a great job.
We were talking about that in the first episode. When we finished the last episode, I brought up something because I agree with you that unions are very helpful. But sometimes unions are in bed with admin. And if anybody wants to write to me and say that I'm terrible for saying that, well, prove me wrong and we'll have a different conversation. How do we deal with that? Because I think that's where calling an attorney such as yourself is so much more important, because some of the unions want to sweep it under the rug because it looks better for the admin. It looks better for their promotions in 10, 5, 15 years, whatever the case may be. How do we encourage people to say that unions are helpful, but lawyers are even more?
The way that you address it is that you've got to find somebody outside of it who specializes in the help that you need. Obviously, for me, it's these employment law issues. So harassment, discrimination, retaliation, hostile work environment. I've even had some cases where we've had to report things to like the district attorney or attorney general's office, maybe even the state certifying entity for law enforcement, like in Texas, it's TCOL, Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, or so whatever your criminal justice certifying board is. Because sometimes, like, for example, like they were violating a state law, like we have body-worn cameras now. Well, most states have a law on how those are used, how they're implemented, including how a video can be used against an officer and what their rights might be in that. Like in Texas, for example, we have a law that says that if you're going to use these body-worn cameras in the videos, then you have to have a policy that addresses an officer's rights to view that. So if you're being investigated by internal affairs and they're going to use a video, you have a right to view that video beforehand. And it's very important to know that. And most union reps and attorneys know that also. But my point being that I was having a conversation with some union people, and I won't say which state or anything about it, but just to say that sometimes there is a conflict when you have a member who's needing to file a claim against another officer, and that other officer is also a member, and there's some political crap that falls into that. Like they want members. They don't want members to stop paying dues. And then there becomes a problem of, well, if we help you file that, and so therefore they can't get and won't get involved in that. And so, and is there maybe some trying to sway somebody one way or the other of, well, maybe you shouldn't file that claim because then they're trying to preserve having more members or, whatever. And I see that all the time. And it's explicitly was told that by some union people a couple months ago, that it becomes a problem when, or like the union knows who I am because I file claims against their members, and I'm like, great. You can't dislike me for that because I'm also helping one of the other members in filing the claim. So great, your hands are clean because you're not involved in it. But even the union reps should be sending it to me like, hey, we can't get involved in this, but they need help. Can you do this? And I do regularly reach out to union reps. In fact, if you want me to reach out to your union rep to introduce myself, send me their name and I'll call them and say, I do that all the time. I pick up the phone, or I have a girl who works for me who helps me do that. We just like, hey, we just want to introduce ourselves. We're Lady Law Shield. This is how we help. Because in essence, we're helping your members. We want to help your members. And that's what you should want too. And they do. They want to help their members solve problems. And sometimes your dues can even help pay for me. They just can't directly get involved in it. But there is conflict of interest. There is some political crap that goes on behind the scenes, or sometimes not behind the scenes. And unfortunately, that will impact your rights. And either your rights as a member or your rights just as according to state and federal laws. And so if you're doing something you have a problem that is employment law related, you must get somebody outside of the union to put eyes on it and have a conversation so that you can know what your rights are. But even something like yeah, your agency is violating state law because you don't have a written policy advising employees of what their rights are to view something like a video. Well, we reported it to the DA's office. The DA contacted the department. Well, guess what? They updated the policies, and now every officer has had to sign that updated for receipt of that policy. And so every officer now knows explicitly what their rights are and to be able to defend themselves and speak up for themselves when they're being investigated. Because, you can't refuse to participate in an investigation. You're required to participate in an IA or you get fired right away. But you still have rights when you're in there. And so sometimes you just need a little extra help. And that's one of my most proud things is that we effectuated change for everybody in an entire department because we pointed out a problem. And that's what we want to do. Look, hey, maybe you didn't know this was a problem, but you should fix it. Oh, okay, we'll fix it. And it was fixed, the best solution. So yeah, you need extraordinary, meaning like outside of what your ordinary union coverage provides. And also, I tell my clients all the time, or potential clients when they call me, are you in a union? Yes. Have you talked to your union about this? No, not yet. You need to call your union. Well, I don't trust my rep. Great. Call your union, like maybe you have a regional, maybe your FOP, which is the Fraternal Order of Police. They have a regional department. Call the regional and say, do I have an attorney? Oh, yes, you do. Great. Book a call because you're not having to pay for any of that yet. You're already paying for your dues. So before you ever have to pay me, you should make sure that you're exhausting all of what your union provides for you. And then also, if they say, well, we can't help you with that, your second question could be, well, can you help me pay for it if you don't do it? Because sometimes they do. Sometimes they'll give you some money or sometimes I have to take care of it, but like go through the union for them to pay some or all of my fee. That doesn't happen all the time, but some unions do offer that. But the point being, yes, there's some BS, conflict of interest, political crap that can interfere with your rights, which you've got to do the work yourself and just make sure that you're getting all the help that you need.
I think that's the other part too, is you talked about something that's very important, is that unions are good. That doesn't mean that you can benefit from having a lawyer or anything else. And it's misunderstood that a union has all your rights. I got life insurance, I got health insurance, but I also have supplemental insurance. Mm-hmm. Not because my health insurance or my life insurance sucks, but having supplemental is very important. I'm not calling you supplemental insurance by any stretch. I'm just saying that it's not.
Okay. Sometimes I say that I'm like the Aflac of insurance. I do say that. So who hasn't seen the Aflac commercial, it doesn't replace your normal insurance plan. Like I don't replace your union. I don't ever intend to replace your union, but you should have both. You should get help from both. And I work with them. I don't replace them. I'm not in opposition to them. Every single time I have a client that has a union, when you hire me to be your attorney, one of the first things that we're going to do, when I say me, I mean my firm, because I have attorneys who very much are passionate about our mission of wanting to help all first responders live happy, healthy lives. And we always call the union lawyer, like, hey, just want to introduce myself. This is what we're planning on doing. What do you know? And because they're always going to be able to provide and always do provide important insight into what's going on that's going to help us better be able to serve our clients. So we don't work in opposition to them at all. And like I say, I wish I could reach out to every single union up and lawyer in the country to introduce myself so that they know we're here. Because I do help people nationwide, because I think the problems we all face are universal. And I don't have to be licensed into your state to provide you advice and counsel on how you can improve your situation at work. And also, it's based on federal law, and I'm licensed in 4 states, so I can help you on federal law issues. So, yeah, sorry, I cut you off, but to say, like, yeah, I'm like the Aflac of insurance.
If I was upset, I'd let you know. Exactly what you said. I was thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, but you're trained in federal law. That's across the country, as I understand it. Maybe not lawyer, but I understand that. Maybe my second language, but I understand that.
I do partner with people in other states all the time. Like I'm licensed in Florida, but I have Florida clients. I live in Texas, but then I partner with, especially if it goes to litigation, which very rarely goes to litigation, but sometimes it does. So I have partners that do litigation in Florida. I've done it. I've talked to people in Alaska, Hawaii, all across. I haven't talked to somebody in all 50 states yet, but I feel like we're getting close. But yes, it's a nationwide, universal issue that people. I've been on Canadian podcasts. They have the same employment law problems, just based on the law's called something different, but ultimately it's all the same.
Being Canadian myself, I absolutely know that it's the same, and for the record, just for those firefighters who are actually listening, because sometimes they feel left out,
Yeah.
we also talk about the unions, particularly IFF,
Yep.
super helpful. I've had a few IFF people on, but
Mhm.
nonetheless, that doesn't mean you can't reach out to someone like Bridget to say, hey,
Yep.
listen, we just need to work in tandem in regards to a blankety blank. So I
Yep.
just want to throw that out too.
Now I have dispatch clients, corrections clients, firefighter clients, law enforcement clients. And because what I do involves government, let's say technically a governmental defendant, or the other side of the aisle is a governmental actor. A lot of employment law attorneys don't really want to mess with having to go up against the government, particularly if you get to the litigation phase. It's harder to sue the government. It's harder to win. It's harder to win against the government. But there's so much that you can do before you ever file a lawsuit to try and fix the problem.
Right.
You want to put people on notice of the problem, and you want to be able to, and I'm going to one that's going to be able to tell you, you have to make sure you say this, and you have to make sure you do it by X date, and we want to make sure we follow up in this way. And that's the same for all, like firefighter, you're getting paid by the government. Teacher, you're getting paid by the government. Dispatch. I have city employees, like maybe you're the city secretary. I don't know how that works up in Canada, but like every city has like the mayor is elected, but the mayor can be, I have clients that are former mayors, but because it's in all my cases, the defendant is a governmental actor. And so I specialize in that. I help people, basically I help all people who have or who are being paid by the government with taxpayer dollars. And so, because when you're being paid by taxpayer dollars, there's public policy, which I believe in, and you want to make sure that there's not enough taxpayer dollars to go around. We all know that. And if you're going to pay that out to somebody, you want to make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. And it's,
Right.
it's hard. So I believe in all of that. But I also believe the government can make, and their actors can make bad decisions, and they've got to be held accountable for that. And I ultimately, we just want to fix it so it doesn't keep happening to people. I'm not in the business of punitives, meaning I'm not in the business of, oh, you transferred somebody just because she was a girl. Okay, then I'm going to take your job and I'm going to destroy you and I'm going to burn your building down. Like, no, put the girl back, give her some money if she lost pay, and don't do that again. And let's train everybody to understand, like, hey, here's an example of what not to do so that doesn't happen to people in the future, because I think that's better for everybody. And the positive ripple effects of that are tremendous. So yeah, I've had 30-year firefighters on the phone with me crying, no different than, rookie cops on the phone with me crying. Like when you feel like you give so much to the job, like you do with firefighters and dispatch and corrections and everybody, because I always say this profession is a choice. Very rarely do people are like, oh, you know what? I'm not going to go be a cop today. Like, nope. It's like, it's very, very intentional. You give so much of yourself to the job. Your family gives so much of themselves to your job. And that's the same for all first responders. Again, I've had grown men on the phone, saying to me, I never thought this would happen to me. I've given so much. I've been in this so long. And what ends up happening is they end up thinking that their work didn't matter. And they start to think, well, then I don't matter. And then I've had many clients, unfortunately, who say they either have attempted or have contemplated suicide because they start to think that their work life, their product didn't make a difference, that nobody cares. And that's not true. Absolutely not. But also why it's so important that you do something about it, because you want to be able to turn that ship around or steer it in a different direction. And sometimes that's not quick. And the same reason that people need you, and I know you would agree with this, but like I've had the therapist at times in my life when it starts to feel overwhelming. It's this thing that I can't stop talking about. And I'm out to my sister, to my best friend, to my husband, and they just all can't take that burden, and they want to help you, but they can't. And that's why you should, therapists. I think every human should have a therapist. And same thing with an attorney. Just the people in your lives just don't have the skill set to be able to help you. But there are people out there who have the skill set to help you. So I just think it's so important that you do something, you take action and get the help that you need.
So many things again that you said. So I'm going to go with a few things. Everyone should have a therapist and everyone should have a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is I have someone I can text at any time, and she usually responds with, call Johnny or call Jane or call. She knows the lawyers. She's not a contract attorney, so she doesn't want to do contracts. She's not a family attorney, so she doesn't do so on and so forth. But it's good to have that. And a therapist. I'm in therapy for life. I'm okay with that. And I tell people, like, sometimes I see him every 2 weeks, every week, and sometimes I see him once every month or two because things are going well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about having someone, depending on the therapist. I think that that's one of the things that law enforcement and first responders in general misunderstand. No one depends on me. They can all live their lives. I'm just happen to be the good friend that could help them, who happens to be a therapist who has technique and has no vested interest other than yourself in that story.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I think that I go back to the lawyer stuff and I think about, some of the things you said, 30-year firefighter, 30-year law enforcement and all that. And I've heard those stories. Suicide is the highest. There's more suicides in the law enforcement field than there is in line of death duties.
Yep.
Deaths, I should say, not duties. But people have to understand that, I think that sometimes it's because people don't know their rights in that field. And maybe you can talk a little bit about those rights that law enforcement has them. Sometimes they don't realize they have because 30 years down the road, I didn't know I could blankety blank. And I don't have a clue where we're going with this, but I'm just throwing that out as a question.
So two things I want to make sure. So remind me to talk about the therapy side of it in terms of legal protections. And you know that you're well versed in that even more than me, but just so I want to make sure we touch on that. But to say, number one is make sure you know what your policies say. Like, I know that's boring, but at some point in your career, and I don't care if you've been in it for 30 years and you've never really read your policies, I don't care. Read your policies because you have rights in there. You can, no, you can't refuse to an internal affairs investigation, but do you get to, file a written response? If they're telling you, you've got to turn this in tomorrow, but is it 24 hours or is it 7 days? Can you have somebody in the room with you? In some places, they do not allow anybody to sit in on an internal affairs interview. Some places they do. And it's up to you to know that. It's up to you to enforce that. And it's not because, and I tell clients sometimes, look, this is not always about you. Even when I'm helping you report a problem that's happening to you. Because here's what's not happening, is you don't have all these employers and supervisors and whatever sitting in a room colluding on how they can come at you. That's just not how it happens. Yes, people are taking actions and doing something that negatively impacts you, right. But then they're living their lives. They're thinking about their problems. It's no different than if you file a workers' comp claim. And I don't do workers' comp yet. I'm probably going to be adding it. So there's just so much overlap in workers' comp and what I do is it's up to you to follow through on that. Also, I highly recommend that you get a workers' comp attorney if you have a workers' comp claim, because that is a very confusing quagmire of a mess. And if you don't have an attorney, yes, it costs money, but you're going to get more money with them than you would without. So, but what I'm saying is if you send that paperwork through to file your workers' comp claim, you must follow up with it. You must keep a copy of everything. Create a little folder in your inbox that says workers' comp, so you can just put it all in there, because I promise you're going to have to follow up on something. Where is this? You file it with your HR person, and most HR people, no offense to anyone, are horrible. And I don't really think that's an intentional horribleness. I think they're just overworked and undereducated on everything that they're responsible for. So the legal rights are: read your manual, know what you do and do not have to do. And then also, when it comes to therapy and employee assistance programs, I see a lot of issues. I was talking with a therapist out of Florida, where she had an officer who had volunteered to be in the employee assistance program, where, somebody you can reach out to and talk about things. Well, obviously you want people, if you're paying somebody to be in that role and paying to train them to be that person and paying to have that division in your department or whatever it is, you're obviously you're going to want to encourage people to take advantage of it. It's a mental health tool. You definitely need confidentiality in that, because cops are a bunch of cynical bunch. I mean, they're all first responders become cynical, and they worry about the confidentiality, or is this going to come back and bite me in the butt? Well, this one guy, it's employee assistance program, and the officer shared something where he like violated policy. Well, what are you supposed to do about that? Are you supposed to report him? I mean, obviously you have an obligation to report things where they're going to hurt themselves or others,
Right.
but you go tattle on this guy where he violated a policy and it has nothing to do with hurting himself or others, then you're destroying that program because there's no confidentiality. Well, he didn't report it. It came out later that he didn't, and he got disciplined. I think he got fired. Like, you just destroyed your employee assistance program. You might as well just shut it down because nobody's going to come to you for help. But one of the things I do want to say about therapy is you can ask your therapist, is this confidential? Is my department going to get these records? Therapists know how to answer that question. Therapists know, like my therapist we've talked about this before, that she takes notes in a very specific way. So there's really not that much that's discoverable. Yes, that could come out in trial, even though a very good plaintiff's lawyer is going to fight like heck to prevent that from ever being disclosed. And even then you can limit it. But therapists know how to answer that question. They're going to be able to describe to you what your rights are. And if a good way to say is, if you want to know what your rights are, ask. Like, is this confidential? Does my employer get to see these notes? If you're being paid by the department, I get it. You would worry about that. I would have too. You can ask that question. And the usual answer, and you can fill in on this, is no, they can't get your records because it's confidential. In the same way that as an attorney, they can't get it from me. There's always that what if. But for the most part, no, it's confidential. But I think that's a big one too, where I tell people, like, go see a therapist. Get over yourself. I don't care if you think it's hippy dippy. I always say it's the rule of threes. When I wanted my kids to eat broccoli, I fed it to them. No, they didn't like it the first time, but we tried it 3 times. Guess what? My kids eat broccoli. They don't choose broccoli pizza or anything, but they eat broccoli. So just go freaking try it. Try it 3 times. Get over yourself. Leave your ego at the door, and you'll be happier and healthier for it. But certainly I would love for you to pick up on that aspect of confidentiality in therapy.
Just a quick break. Guys, I'm going to talk about a new product that I really like. I actually bought one of their hoodies. It was amazing, and I really enjoyed wearing it. This episode is going to be supported by Deemed Fit. Deemed Fit is a first responder-owned activewear and leisure brand. And one thing that I genuinely like about them is that they support different causes. I actually gave a few people I know who work with first responders or nonprofits their name to Deemed Fit, and I know they're talking to them. They do a lot of initiatives and collections that are based on mental health for first responders. And if you go there right now and you buy anything, including the mental health support stuff, use the code RDA15. That's right, RDA15 to get 15% off on any products that you get. Again, it's called RDA15. Go to deemedfit.com, DEEMEDFIT.com, and enjoy 15% off at checkout to save. Now, right back to the episode. Let me be very clear about anyone who's I can speak intelligently of Vermont and Massachusetts. That's where I've practiced, so I can say that legally. The rest of it, I think, is similar across the country, but I don't want to pretend I know shit I don't know. So I always say, I'll tell you what I know. In Massachusetts, they can subpoena my records, and only a judge can subpoena my records, and I can redact anything I want. And if they say this is not useful, we'll put you on the stand, I can say client-therapist privilege, and I don't have to speak. As long as it's not suicide, homicide, or in danger of the community. And this is and endangering the community is like, oh, I'm fucking done with this. Is not endangering the community. You're just fucking pissed off.
Right.
The endangering the community has to be very specific. It's got to be a real threat. It's got to be something that can be taken out. There's a lot of legal stuff where I can bullshit. Like, I can tell people, like, that this is not reportable. So I think that what I tell people is that with your like, you can talk to your lawyer because there's a client therapist, client lawyer privilege there. With me, unless you're telling me you're going to go shoot up a school or going to go hurt yourself, I got nothing to say.
Yeah.
I had a particular case that I'm going to save the department. I'm just going to say it was a department who asked me about client who I know what they were going for. They weren't going for his mental health. They were going for something to destroy his character. And what I did is I redacted everything that would maybe go after his character and just talked about, this is what's happening with his work. This is what's happening. And the lawyer for the state was really pissed off. You can't do that. I'm like, give me you can talk to the lawyer at the licensing board that I work with, and you can talk to my NBCC. I'm allowed to do all these things.
Yeah.
My client got the disability he deserved.
Mm-hmm.
It was because I protected my clients, and like that's the other part too, is if you talked about mental health counselors, get a vetted first responder mental health therapist, because they're going to know how to protect you the most you can. If they read my notes, most people go like, your notes say shit. Like, yes, there's a point to that.
Yeah.
Because then they can't do anything because my notes say shit. So I don't know if that helps, but I guess I'm making it my interview now, but I just want to make sure. And I'm 99% sure this goes across the country and Canada. This is not a singularly Massachusetts, Vermont thing, but because someone says to me, well, in Idaho, there's this, and I don't know all the clauses. I will admit that. But,
Neither do I.
But federally, on the NBCC standpoint, I don't have to report shit unless it's those three things. And the third one has to be extremely specific. It can't be like, somebody just want to blow up. I'm like, yeah, you want to blow up. Okay, whatever. I don't give a fuck. You got to be able to handle that. So I don't know if that helps you in this, but that's the question.
I just think there's so much overlap in, like, by the time somebody needs me, they need a therapist. And I tell all my clients, like, don't just rely on me, because yes, we're going to listen to you. And I think that in and of itself is a therapeutic tool, is just having somebody that's listening to you, hears you, acknowledges what you're going through, and then talks through, like, yes, you could do that. Just give you, like, because when I work with somebody, the only way that I start working with somebody is, I don't know, very rarely do I say, okay, I'm going to start being your lawyer right now. I'm going to go file some things for you. I'm like, no. I can only get so much information out of that initial 30-minute phone call. And then we're going to say, yep, now you're going to hire me to start helping. That first level of working with me is what I call a consultation, where you send me everything. Let's say me, you send us, my firm, everything. We read everything you send us, audio, he listened to it, audio files, everything. And then we come back and have what we call a strategy session. We say, okay, here we've looked at everything you sent us. Sometimes we have to get some extra follow-up, need this. Okay, now we'll have our strategy session. And we talk through, okay, based on everything you sent me, here's the cold, hard facts. Maybe I talked to your union lawyer, maybe not. And here's what I think you should do. And we write it down, and I give that to you in writing, whether you hire me to start taking action on your behalf or not, because I know I designed it that way on purpose, because I needed that so badly when I was at the sheriff's office. I had a union, great for what they did. I did not trust them with the issues that I was going through. And I didn't know anybody like me to call. And so I very specifically designed that level of service to start, because I want you to have a written, black and white, cold, hard plan of action where I say, here you go, do with what you want. You don't want to hire me after that? That's okay, because I know I've helped you. I 100% believe that giving you that is helping you. And then, of course, you're like, okay, and if you want to hire me to start doing that for you, then that's the second level where we move into legal representation. But I just believe it's that. But by the time somebody comes to me, they need you. And both of us are listening. And for me, it's then, okay, what is the plan of action? Certainly you have your own version of plans of action for people. I'm guessing, I don't know. But also to say, like, I've talked to therapists across the country. When I go speak at conferences, I always like to connect with other people who are speaking, because we're all serving the same community. And especially people in the mental health, like with you, as a therapist, like you're going to have clients that need somebody like me. And I want to make sure that if I can help, that you know that I'm out here as a resource. And so I've talked with therapists in many different states. Yes, every state has their own certifications, and I'm not a therapist and cannot speak to exactly what those laws are in every state, just like I can't speak to workers' comp in every state, because it's literally, there's 50 different versions. But ultimately, it's about the same. And when it comes to what is discoverable, what you could get out of a subpoena, is there are a lot of protections for the patient, for the clients, for you, like for your patient, my client, same person, of protections, so that, because confidentiality is very, very important. And we're both helping, again, we're both coming at this to try and help people alleviate mental health problems.
I think that you said it best. My point is always, like, I build a relationship. You talk about how your process works. I get a little bit about building the relationship. Yes, I ask pointed questions, but I build a relationship. Sometimes I have a lot of hockey stuff on my wall. I got some football stuff, some sayings. So people build a relationship based on that. And I think that that's how you grow the relationship as a therapist, because first responders do not want a robot, number one. Number two, one of the things that I talk about legally or not, or whatever you want to call it, and I don't want to pretend I'm a lawyer, there's been a time where someone was applying to be in a department. Again, I will save the department. And the chief gave me a call. I got all the releases and all that. And he's like, well, she says that she's been in therapy for blank years. I can't remember. And I said, okay. And he's like, well, why can she be qualified to be a cop? I'm like, listen here, buddy. I live in this community. I know what's right for this community, and I want this community safe. Do you think for half a fucking second I would recommend someone who I think will be unstable in the community or for your department? Right. That's your discrimination, chief, not mine.
Yep.
And good news is the chief, we don't talk too often, I'll be perfectly honest with you. But at the same time, that person got the job and has been very successful. It's been blank years, again, trying to protect my client here.
Yeah.
And has been, good news. She's never gotten a problem in the community due to her mental health issue. The point is sometimes you got to be able to, like, for me, it's like basically also being a human. Like, I live in this community. Why the fuck would I put someone who's unstable in the community to protect me? That's the dumbest thing in the world.
Right. And obviously, we could talk all day long about how there is still a lot of stigma around getting help. And I think talking to us, like, why would you not commend that? Like, oh, you're seeing a therapist, something must be wrong with you. No, how about I just want to stay being mentally well? That it's no different. I keep saying, coming back to this like teeth thing, but it's no different than you don't brush your teeth once in your life and be like, check, did that, done. Nope.
Right.
We're supposed to brush our teeth morning and night so that we can prevent tooth decay and have teeth and not be snaggled, and like a crackhead. I mean, I'm about to say no offense to crackheads, except crackheads are gross. I bought crack for a living for 3 years, and it's very disgusting. And they really do lose teeth. But it's preventative. Like, I feel like every chief would say, absolutely, go talk to your therapist. It's none of my business. But if you're just seeing a therapist, that does not mean that you are a danger to the community or to yourself. And stigmatizing it, I'm glad at least he had that conversation with you, because maybe that positively changed maybe their outlook or their judgmentalness of someone who is seeking therapy. But that's why, I say, look, I'm capable of a lot. I'm raising 3 kids. I'm running a business. I've freaking decided to try out for SWAT team, which was freaking nuts. Bought crack for a living for 3 years. It was disgusting. I'm capable of a lot. But I also know there's no sense that I do this all on my own. And there's no weakness in saying that I've had a therapist. It's made me a better wife, a better mom, a better sister, a better daughter, just a better, happier, healthy human. And we do take on a lot of burdens with people. Even I'm not a cop anymore, but I talk to cops all the time, or, just law enforcement. I mean, corrections officers are the ones that I feel breaks my heart all the time, because they're in such a toxic environment. And they still go to work every day. Like, God bless them. But I guess I need to work out so I can let go of those things. I haven't talked to my therapist in a while, but I know she's just a click away when I need to book that. And I pay for a business coach. Sometimes I think, am I embarrassed to say that I have a business coach? And I'm like, no, because I can't do this by myself. I have got to bounce this off somebody. Or, well, I'm not going to hire somebody for this. I'm just going to ask this other person to take on more work. My business coach was like, why would you do that? You're taking her away from what she does best and what she likes the most. I'm like, oh, you're right. Okay, well, I'll just hire another part-time person for that. I'm going to spend the money anyway. And I probably would have. I did mess it up. I just got to really I opened up my email this morning, and one of the longest emails I've ever seen. I didn't read it all. And I responded back to her and I said, wow, that's a long email, but I hear you. And I said, I apologize for anything that I did. I'm your boss. I'm the one paying you. I apologize for anything that I did that made this harder for you. Let's make sure we have our meeting this week so we can talk it through. I don't think I'm 100% responsible for that, but I think that's the most important thing I could say is, I'm sorry for anything that I did that made this harder.
I mean, here's the thing. We gotta kind of wrap up here, but I have so many more. Bridget, how about we definitely think about doing something in the near future again together, first and foremost. I think I want to put it on the table right now, because I can talk about that for part of being a leader in this first responder world, police, fire, anywhere, when you become an admin leader,
Mhm.
part of it is to protect and serve your staff underneath
Yes.
you and protect them. Why the fuck does that not include mental health? Why does that not include, hey, listen, you should talk to a lawyer because this seems like, hey, I'm out of it's out of my hands, but can you go check out on a lawyer? Maybe they can help you.
Mhm.
That's what the job, when you sign up to be a lieutenant, a captain, a chief battalion, or a chief, or whatever, that is part of your responsibility. So I can go on and on about that because
Me
that
too.
pisses me off.
And they get almost no training. And it really is almost, it's like that analogy of, okay, you brush your teeth once and you're done. You become a supervisor. You have to take like an intro supervisor course. And then that's it.
Right.
That's not enough. I think that's one of the biggest failures in all of first responder culture and hierarchy is you should get regular leadership training. And what I mean by leadership is learning the tools of how to really create a successful team and support your team, and also give you the tools and resources to know, like, when you're needing to go up against somebody else that might get you, like, they're not going to like it, but I'm going to do it anyway. That's what the definition of integrity is. Doing, what do you do when nobody's looking? And just don't, they don't get enough training on it. And it just doesn't come naturally to most people. So, and that's okay. Like I still have a business coach, and I've been doing this for 6 years now, and I regularly pay my business coach because I just don't know how to do all this, and I just need somebody to help me. So we could keep going and going, I know, but
Like I said, we need to do another episode together,
yeah,
probably like a two-parter again.
yeah,
Bottom line, everything you said is ringing a lot of bells for me and a lot of stuff that we can talk about.
mhm,
Asking for help is not weakness. Not
nope,
asking for help is. But
yep,
that's just my point of view. Of course, people, "Oh, it's because you're a therapist." No, it's because it's in life. I need help. No one's ever made it on their own, and no one makes it out alive. So might as well
right,
fucking get some help.
yep.
You said you said your age earlier. I'm going to be 51 in a few days myself.
Oh, happy
So
birthday.
so I get the age thing, and I think sometimes that wisdom kicks in a little too late, but that's just me. One
Sure.
of the things that we love to do in this show, started a few episodes ago, and I love this, is the guest before you came up with a question. Their question was actually something really hard to answer in the sense that it was disgusting. In your case, it's a kind of an interesting one because we've talked about it a little bit already, but I think it's really relevant. And I'll look down because I'm not much of a reader for my questions. But this one was, what do people most misunderstand about you? And I think that's a great question for a lot of people.
I guess what's immediately coming to mind, and I feel like I have to like have a qualifier on it, which is a whole therapy session probably, of saying like that people think because I've done a lot that nothing hurts my feelings or that I can't be hurt. And that is not true at all. I mean, my sister, I remember we were growing up, and she always thought that I was so tough, and that the only way that she could get to me was to say something really, really mean. And like, I think one time, and I love my sister, I mean, we talk almost every day. And we've talked about this many times, where like, one time she was really mad at me, and she said something like, well, it's no sense what's his name cheated on you. You deserved it. And I'm like, what? Like, I couldn't believe she said that. And and even now, like if somebody, like with my husband, like he'll, you know, knee-jerk response and say something. And I'm always like, I would never say that to you. Because, and so people think, I guess that's the long way of answering it, is that yes, I've done a lot, but I mean, you can still hurt my feelings just like anybody. But I, work real hard to take care of myself and go walk it off. And like, look, and one of the things my therapist says, that one of the most valuable lessons I learned from my therapist is I'm not responsible for other people's actions or reactions. And that takes a lot of work, because when somebody does something hurtful, like that guy who accused me of lying about my law enforcement history, and that 18 years of being an attorney isn't long enough to be a credible legal source. Like, yeah, that's like, are you kidding me? Like, yeah, it made me really mad. And obviously still bothers me enough that I'm bringing it up. And like, I'm not responsible for him. I'm not, like, even if I do something horrible, like, and I make my husband mad, and like I did something wrong, I'm still not responsible for him choosing to be mad about it. But that just takes a lot of work. But I mean, I'm willing to do the work. I'm willing to look at something hard and say, well, what could I have done better? And I can do that better next time. But so that's a really long way of saying that, yeah, I've done a lot. Yes, I've been on SWAT team, but you can still hurt my feelings just like the next person.
I like your answer. I think that it's the same. I really think that that's something that I'd love people to understand about me, even though apparently I have a lot of emotions, according to my girlfriend. I also think that that's something that they tend to forget is you can have done the hard part. That doesn't mean other things can't hurt you. But now I'm going to ask you, what should be the question I ask my next guest who comes on? What's the question you think they should be able to be answering?
What is one thing or way that you wish you were taking care of yourself that you aren't doing?
I like that. I think that there's so many answers I have for that, but I think that that's a very good question for a lot of people. So I really appreciate that. As we are blowing through time, like I said, let's do this again soon.
Yeah.
How do we reach you again? I know we talked about it in the first episode or the first part of the episode. Want to do this part?
The best way, my website, ladylawshield.com. If you need me, that's where you can book a call. When I say me, my firm. I mean, I have people who are very dedicated to serving this community, and I love the team that we've been growing, and the people that I'm putting on my firm to work with you and with me. So if you need to book a call, it's on our website. That's the top of the page, first thing you see. Just so happens to be orange and blue on the page. Go Gators. If you didn't miss the first episode, I'm a University of Florida grad, and I love being in the orange and blue nation. Okay. And if you social media, people like getting information in different ways. If it's a newsletter, I highly recommend you follow me, sign up for my newsletter. It's once a month. I try and give you little tips so you know how to take care of yourself from this employment law crap. But if you rather social media, all the links are on my page. So ladylawshield.com.
It will be linked in the show notes for those of you who want to go there. And I hope that you enjoyed this interview as much as I did, Bridget, because I really enjoyed our conversation.
I very much did, Mr. Bisson. I love saying your name with that French accent. And I'd love to do it again. I feel like you and I, could just keep talking and talking and talking about this. And the goal is that if one day we help one person, then we've been successful in life.
I see my podcast that way. I see my work that way. And I can't remember who had said it, but someone said, save one person, save the world. And I think that that's what we're trying to do. And hopefully I've saved one or two people in my life. And I hope that people have been saved. And I can probably tell from our conversation that they have. So thank you so much. Come back. We'll call this an episode for today, but we'll definitely talk afterwards. And for those of you who are still listening, hope you go to our website. And I really thank you for listening. And I welcome you back for the next episode.
Thank you.
Please like, subscribe, and follow this podcast on your favorite platform. A glowing review is always helpful. And as a reminder, this podcast is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. If you're struggling with a mental health or substance abuse issue, please reach out to a professional counselor for consultation. If you are in a mental health crisis, call 988 for assistance. This number is available in the United States and Canada.